Are you a professional pillow fighter? Or a 9-to-5 low-cost time travel agent? Or maybe real estate sales on Mars is your profession? It doesn't matter. Whatever it is you do, however complex or intricate, Monday.com can help you organize, orchestrate, and make it more efficient. Monday.com is the one centralized platform for everything work-related. And with Monday.com, work is just easier. Monday.com, for whatever you run. Go to Monday.com to learn more.
Regen auf mein Kopf. Hinter via Deck muss es die kleine Fahrt beim Top. Geht mir kein Sach mit, die Tropfen.
Welcome to Kill Me Now with Judy Gold. I'm your host, Judy Gold. And this week and next, we have the incredible comic, human, and just generally nice guy, Jon Laster. I really loved talking to him, as I always do. He's a pretty special person. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Hey everyone! I am very excited today because, a lot of times I have people on the show who I'm not really friends with. I do a lot of research on them and I learn about them on the show. And then there's people who are part of my comedy family. You know what I'm saying, baby?
Absolutely.
And did you hear that voice? This is one of those guys. It's like, I can't explain to non-comedians what it's like when you walk in a club, your home club, and we're talking about the Comedy Cellar, but you got all your people there. You can choose who you want to eat dinner with, who you want to hang with, who you want to sit with. And I just love this guy. He is a member of my comedy family, ladies and gentlemen. And there's so much to talk about. He just started this app called Blap, which is an app that promotes Black-owned businesses. So you can go, I want to go to the florist. Let me go on Blap and see which florist in my area is owned by a Black person. And I'm going to buy my flowers from that person because I want to help promote Black-owned businesses. And it's a brilliant idea. And it came out of Jon Laster, everyone. Jon Laster's here! Woo! Jon.
To be here. I love you, Judy.
I love you. Listen, you bitch. I do a lot of deep digs into my guests, and I can really start with, a little bit like with your high school years, but I can't find anything about your elementary. I know you're from Denver, Colorado. You have a sister named Desiree, who is an attorney.
Yes.
You love your mother beyond anything. Your father lived in Fort Greene, New York, right?
You know what? Highland Falls. It's probably all the same thing, though.
Whatever. You know what? I did whatever. And your mother, you grew up with your mom.
Yes.
And what did your mother do? I can't find, I was searching to try to find your mother. I can't find anything. What the fuck?
Yo, we are in the witness protection program. No, I'm kidding.
You're such an asshole. And I'm like, wow, really?
No, but you know what? You found more than anyone else did, so that's great.
Right. Well,
Yeah. But no, my mom is great, and you were spot on. Yeah, my mom is literally my everything. Best day of my comedy career was first show we did in Denver, and I looked up and my mom was slapping her friend's arm, laughing.
What, did you do it at the Comedy Works in Denver?
No, hell no. I had just started. My brother put on a show in some theater out there.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it was great. It was still, I was a hood hero. So,
Right.
1,000 people showed up to that joint.
No fucking way. I need to be a hood hero.
Just started comedy, yeah.
That's a lot of pressure when you're just starting. First of all, dear everyone, no one wants to see, like, if I know you, I don't want to see you sitting in the fucking front row. Like, get away from me, okay? If you know the comic, sit in the fucking back. Especially if we went to high school together and because you're on stage trying to, like, be in the moment, and then you're like, oh my God, it's so-and-so from high school, fuck! And then you're like, oh, are they laughing at that? Like, get the fuck away from the front fucking row.
Yeah.
And don't send me a note before the show that you're in the audience. Like, I don't want to know who's in the fucking audience. Okay.
Really don't.
So, Jon, you grew up in Denver. What was your early childhood like?
My early childhood, I mean, it was good. It's going to sound crazy when I explain it, but I mean, you kind of just, you go with your environment. But I mean, by the time I was a teenager, like, I've been making a joke about it on stage. The Denver that I grew up in isn't the Denver that people, when people say the word Denver, the picture that pops in their head isn't where I grew up. I grew up in a drive-by gangbang dope dealing. There's a rapper back in the day named DJ Quick, and you can Google it. It's a song called Just Like Compton. But he's talking about he's on this tour and he's going to these cities that he didn't know had these pockets of insanity. And the last verse is Denver is just like Compton. But the crazy part about that is then the next verse, the only city after that he says it about. So then he goes after Denver, and the next verse he says, Denver wants to be like Compton. Denver was so bad they ran on stage and grabbed this rapper off stage. It was my boys, Fat Mike and them. Fat Mike ended up getting shot in Atlanta, but it was the guys from the neighborhood that I was from. The East Side used to be the bad part of Denver. I grew up in East Village, but even people on the East Side wouldn't come to the East Village.
So you grew up in a particular area called the East Village.
Yeah, well, 5 Points is what most people.
5 Points.
Yeah, when people go to Denver, they're like, "Oh, I heard 5 Points was this, that, the other." It was
right,
but it was so bad that the United States, around the whole country, at one point in time, decided this keeping people in certain areas didn't work, so they tore down Cabrini Green. They tore down the projects from The Wire in Baltimore.
Right.
Where I grew up was the projects they tore down. We were the Cabrini Green of Denver. They bulldozed it. They bulldozed the hospital. They bulldozed the elementary school where I used to play basketball. We were that area when America was like, let's tear down the worst of the worst, and then get these people resituated. We got bulldozed in Denver.
How old were you when you got bulldozed?
I had just left for college. So I lived through the part that they wanted to bulldoze, and then they were like, get this out. Let's pretend this didn't happen.
So did you have an apartment?
Yeah, we lived in an apartment.
And was it dangerous? Like, did you feel, I mean, it's interesting because, living in New York, like, there are what we call projects.
Yeah.
All around me. And then, and then there's Central Park West with Richie. It's like literally, it's unbelievable. Like a block away, they just built these like $5 million 2-bedroom condos with balconies and literally looking at one of the projects,
Yeah.
So it's not as separate here in New York so you were, were you ever scared? Like, as a little kid, were you like, oh, this is where I live and this is just a part of my...
You know what? To be honest, there were moments that I was scared because it's a different culture than New York. So there's drive-bys in Denver. So I was shot at. I was shot at a number of times. So
How old were you?
Oh God, the first time I got shot at, maybe 12.
What the fuck? That's awful. So what were you doing? Were you just walking down the street?
Yeah, you know what? I was following these some friends of mine. They were like, "Yo, man, these dudes up the street was talking shit." You know what I mean? So
yeah.
They were older than us. These guys are probably 14 or 15, and they was like, "Yo, we gonna go fuck them up." So I just wanted to see what was going on, So I'm following them, and then these guys start shooting. I was like, "Whoa!" So that was probably the first time I got shot at. Yeah, we were walking up this street, and then these dudes just start, they started letting off rounds. But I mean, I was shot at a number of times.
Not at you. Like, did they want to hit you, or they just wanted to scare you?
I think they were shooting at us.
No fucking way.
Yeah, I think they were shooting at us. But I mean, I've been shot. I mean, as you got older, you got shot at more times. But I mean, with that being said, I was also, by the time I was 14, 15, in a little bit of a bubble because I was the hood athlete.
Because you played basketball, right?
It doesn't matter what city, wherever you live in America, if you're the hood athlete, you are
forget it.
Completely off limits. And I remember a guy pointed a gun at me one time. We were on the court. This Hyundai pulled in. This dude pulls a gun out the window, and my boys, everybody's on the court like, yo, you see him standing here. Like, we can do this later.
Right.
Not right now. And my boy, Day Day was a psycho. He runs and jumps on top of the car like donuts, because they want to get out of there now.
Right.
So they're shooting through the roof and nicked the side of Day-Day's hand before he flew off the car. Like, it was that type of, sometimes those type of tense moments. But there was a lot of the things that were happening. I was never asked to pull a trigger or never asked to be in harm's way. As a matter of fact, even when my friends did dirt, a lot of times they would come and knock on my door and say, hey, man, because I would shoot at night, because there would be little kids like, hey, aren't you Jon Laster? Could I play with you? So I would shoot at night when kids couldn't come over there so I could get my workout in. And there were some nights that they would knock on the door and say, hey, John, don't be on the court tonight.
Wow.
Yeah, tonight's not the night.
So from before, when did you form your love of basketball? I mean, like, you have a brother and a sister, right?
Yep.
Did you all live in the same apartment with your mom?
Yes.
Were your parents divorced? My
parents got divorced when I was 5, and that's how we ended up in Denver. My aunt was also getting divorced. So my mom and my aunt moved, they were like, yeah, fuck y'all, we're going to Denver. And my mom was like, my aunt was moving to Denver. She had money. So my mom was like, yeah, I'll try something, new. And they packed up and moved to Denver. And
do you remember when your parents were together and where
Yeah, it was like, it was like Mayberry, it was a house. It was a house in Newburgh, New York, with the dog and the 2 cars in the driveway and you know what I mean? It was white picket fence shit. And then, they got divorced and we ended up shortly thereafter in the hood in Denver.
So up till 5, it's like, nothing of this kind of shooting, all this shit. And what did your father do? Did your parents work?
My dad worked for disabled, I think, wardens of the state of New York. So he managed houses where they kept these kids. Yeah. Upstate.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So your mother takes the kids and leaves.
Yes.
Do you keep in contact with your father?
Yeah. You know what? You keep in contact with him until you're coming into your
manhood,
so to speak. Yeah. So maybe till around 10. And then it becomes a little bit of the opposite.
Right.
Kind of like, yo, fuck him. You know what I mean? You're growing up with a bunch of guys who don't have fathers. So, you know what I mean? Like, you got to figure out what you're going to do. And I remember my dad called me probably when I was like 11, and we talked, and he was like, yeah, basically, just so you know, I'm not paying for your college. And that's when I actually wanted to skate. I wanted to speed skate. Then I wanted to play football. We couldn't afford the pads because the pads were like $100 or something. My mom was like, I don't have no $100. And I was like, yeah, we don't have no $100. So she got me a basketball, which was like $9.
Right.
$10. And what's so crazy about the basketball thing? I never told this story either. My mom, I get on this basketball team, right? I hate
How old are you?
I am 12.
Okay.
And I hate basketball. So
why do you hate basketball?
I didn't want to play basketball.
Right. Okay.
It was just something my mom said, you got to do something.
Right. Smart woman.
Yeah, sign up for the team. You're going to stick with it, whatever. I hated basketball. So I said, okay. So I signed up for the team, right? And then practice is 2 days a week at this rec center. So what I would do is I would put on my basketball stuff, right? Hey, mom, I'm going to practice. Never went to practice. Right?
Yeah.
My mom at the time, keep in mind, has 3 jobs, so it doesn't matter. She's not going to know when I'm
Right.
So finally, one day she said, "Oh, you're not going to believe this. I have off work Saturday. I'm going to come to your game."
Oh, fuck!
Judy, I have never been back to that center ever. So we talking about like 5 or 6 months.
Right.
So I was like, oh my God. First of all, imagine the trouble I'm going to be in. And she finds out I've been lying for 5 or 6 months straight. She says, I'll be there at the game Saturday. What time is the game? And I said, oh, don't, I got to get the schedule. I'll let you know. So I find out what time the game is. My mom's coming to the game. I'm panicking. My friends, good friends and neighbors, really good basketball players, they were on the team and they love me. So they were like, hey, bro, I tell you what, just come to the game, walk in the locker room, we'll see what happens. Because the thing was, like I said, I lived in the hood. So the coach is a full-blown alcoholic. He doesn't really know who's on the team. So they give out the jerseys. Who's number 6? Who's number 7? They get to 15, which is the last jersey. Nobody says anything. I was like, oh, that's me. So I put the little shirt on with the number on the back, and I sat there on the end of the bench. And then eventually my boys, good basketball players, they were cool with the coach. And like I said, he comes in, and I mean, he's hammered during the game. Wow. I don't think he remembers any of the game.
Right.
So they said, yo, you forgot to put Jon in. So I get in the game. My mom was happy. And I was so scared.
Were you bad?
I was horrible. I was so scared that she was going to come back that I stayed. And
that is fucking crazy.
And
did you feel guilt? Didn't you feel guilty?
None whatsoever. Not at all. But I kept going. After that, I was like,
not Jewish. I would have been like, oh my God. Didn't she say how was basketball practice? And you'd be like, yeah, it was fine, whatever.
Right. Yeah, getting better, whatever. But after that, I was like, every practice, I was there after that. And then, the rest is history.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Were you a good student?
No, not that interested in high school.
In grammar school, were you?
I mean, all of my teachers always said the same thing. This is maybe.
Same. I know what it's going to be.
Yeah.
As in apply himself.
Yes.
Right.
Smartest guy in here, but
right. If he would apply himself, now if I could go back and say, I don't know, have you heard of ADHD? Because I have every one of the fucking symptoms. Thank you, but so you're in school, you have this group of friends, all guys, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And you go to Denver East High School.
Yeah.
So after you're 12 years old, you start going to this practice, you get to high school. When do you get good? Like when do you become the hood athlete? And is your aunt near you? Is your aunt and her kids near you, or?
Yeah, but you know what the thing was? My aunt was a psychoanalyst. My aunt was, I think, one of 2 or 3 psychoanalysts in the history of America. Like she was really, really brilliant woman. But I think that this is going to be tough to say, but I almost felt like when I was younger that because they had money, that they were better than us. So once we moved out, because we all moved into the same house when we first got to Denver, and then we were there around 9 months, 10 months, and then, they were like, all right,
take care.
Yeah, take care. So we moved, but once we moved, they would always be like, hey, come see us. And we'd be like, hey, come see us sometimes. We come see you guys all the time. And then, like I said, by the time you I don't know, by the time you're 10, 11 years old is when I became very defiant, to say the least.
Oppositional,
Yeah,
right?
I stayed in trouble. I got kicked out of elementary school.
What did you do?
Fighting. Oh, I was violent. I was always punching people, just punching guys. And
Did you think? What do you think you were angry about?
I think I was angry about where we had landed.
Right, because you had this perfect life,
Yeah.
and then it's still in your face because your aunt and cousins are having and you're in a shit show. Yeah.
And I think that I was just like ragingly bitter about it. And
And what about your siblings? Were they
they never took it as hard. They still don't.
Are they older than you?
My brother's younger, my sister's a year older, my brother's younger, but they never had the chip on their it was more than a chip. I was an angry young guy. But they still spoke to my dad, still spoke to his family. My sister, till my aunt died, spoke to my aunt. My brother did. And she would always ask them, hey, how's Jonathan do? How's Jonathan do? I hear this, that, the other. And they would be like, that motherfucker don't speak to none of y'all.
Right.
Such a mama's boy that anybody that in any way disaffected my mom is dead to me.
That's so interesting because I always say the curse of the comic is that we're so hyper aware, and I see things sometimes that I'm like, why did I have to see that? Why did I have to notice that? Why do I have to be aware of that? And it sounds like you were so fucking aware of what was going on. And I often think, like, why aren't you pissed off about, you see me on stage. I'm like, I get so aggravated over, I'm like, you fucking, how can you not be completely, freaking pissed off about this?
Yeah.
I don't understand that. And yet it's like you were the one that was carrying don't you fucking see what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
And your brother or sister didn't get into any trouble.
No, as a matter of fact, I stopped getting into trouble because my mom, after I got kicked out of 6th grade, I ended up going to this other school. My mom had to fight Denver public schools to keep me in public schools. She gets into it. I was so bad. This is a true story. I get thrown out of 6th grade, right? My mom gets into it, Denver public schools, and finds some loophole where they have to essentially legally go out of their way to find a way to accommodate me. So my mom makes them get me my own school bus to take me to another school.
I love that.
So I used to ride my own bus to another school in the suburbs. So I go to.
So is the other school completely opposite from the school you'd been going to?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's these white kids got money. You know what I mean? It's way out in the suburbs. And my mother, so by the time I'm done with 6th grade, I'm in 7th grade. My mother sits me down and she said, your brother hasn't got in any trouble since you left. So it dawned on me he's
following you. You're the older brother. Yeah.
And that's when I stopped. I didn't want him to do that. So I was like, you know what? That was enough for me to never, ever end up in the principal's office again.
So you're in middle school at this
now I'm in
rich white kid school. Are there any?
That's how I finished 6th grade. And then I went to middle school and that.
Oh, okay.
So now I'm in middle school, 7th grade is when she comes to the game. And now I got to start going to practice.
Right.
And that's when the basketball kicked in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you go into practice, you get to Denver East High School.
Yeah.
And do you try out for the team? Is that?
Yes. But I again, I have that same, whatever anger boiling through me. So what would happen is I didn't go to class. I failed out. The new coach comes in at the end of they hire a new coach who's going to come in the year that I'm failing out of school.
What year was that? Freshman,
this
sophomore?
Is the end of my freshman year.
Okay.
So I'm like 14 at the time, but the coach as part of his contract, he said, you can't put him out. I'll take the contract, but that guy has to stay in public schools.
Wow.
And Coach Lohman, you know, little Jewish guy, he's like my dad. Yeah. So yeah, Coach Lohman.
That's the Jew bell, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Coach and Lohman's, by the way, for any Jews who are listening, do you know what is this department store that that they all went, I used to go, and they had a fucking dressing room where all the women, it was like mirrors all over, and they would just fucking get naked and throw their and it was like every fucking Jewish woman was at Lohman's, and it was the Lohman's. When it closed on the Upper West Side, it was like, yeah. Sat Shiva. But anyway, so Willie Lohman's, hey now. So your coach sort of sees your talent and is like, I'm not going to coach this team without this guy.
Yeah. He was brutal.
He was?
Oh.
But out of love or out of... Okay.
Oh, yeah. But like I said, coach is, he's really like, if you say anyone who's having a conversation now and they say dad, he's what pops in my head.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So
he's the guy I've gone to since I was 14.
So did you have this personal did you go to his house? Was he like
yeah.
Okay.
He taught me to drive, how to shave, how to drive a shift. I had to work at his bar during the summertime because he was like, you're not going to be down there. You know what that's how that's going to end up. So yeah, man, everything.
Did he do this for any of the other kids?
No, he was, you know what? He was close to my brother, but I think that he just, I don't know.
Maybe he saw something of himself in you.
Yeah.
Did he have his own kids?
Yes. He had a daughter. And she and I are super cool, super close now too. She just had a kid.
Jon, I love this story.
Yeah, Brooke just had a kid. Yeah.
Brooke Lohman?
Yes.
What was his
last name is Burkhoff now.
Oh, she married a Jew.
Yeah.
What was his first name?
It's Burkhoff. Jack.
Jack Lohman.
Yeah.
Is he still alive?
We have the same initials. Yeah, he is still alive.
And he lives in Denver?
Yes.
Hi, Jack. Oh my God, I love that. So it's kind of like To Serve with Love. I'm just like loving this. You know, like don't you think you hit the jackpot as far as having this father figure and
no pun intended.
Oh yeah, jackpot! Oh my God! The brilliance of Jon Laster seeing that. But I mean, there was some divine intervention there that
absolutely. Yo, I also had some teachers too who down the stretch, Mr. Meek, Miss Anderson, Mr. Downer. Like I had 3 of my teachers at the end of my senior year. That was also divine intervention, who essentially rearranged their schedules for the day because I had a teacher who was failing me.
Right.
I got an F in this class. Back then you had to have a 2.0, otherwise you were Prop 48, which means you couldn't go straight to D1. You had to go to a GCO first, which would have been a nightmare.
Right.
But I had teachers who taught me in their off periods to make sure that F didn't bring me below a 2.0 so I could go to Minnesota. And
that is so amazing.
And they too were lifesavers. But yeah, I mean, Coach really, man, like there's so many things that he was just like, this is the course you're going to have to, and I mean, from the time he got there, I remember there was a game one time we were playing in the summer league, right in the finals for Colorado. And it's a double elimination tournament. So you have to lose twice before you're out of the tournament. We hadn't lost any games all summer, right? We get to the finals. We beat this team. Tournament's over. They already had one loss, right? They beat us. First of all, my coach comes over to the house to bring me some new shoes.
Right.
Before the game, he said, "Hey, man, I'm just bringing you some shoes." My girlfriend's sitting on the couch. So he looks and he's like, hey, man, we got a game today. I don't know if you should be doing this.
Right.
Whatever, coach, So we get out there for the finals. We lose by 20.
Oh.
Right? That's only one loss. So you rest for an hour, then you play again. And I remember, coach, this is the type of guy coach was. We're all sitting there. We come in there after the game's over. And he says, hey, guys, we weren't defending. We weren't doing this. And then he just stops on a dime. He said, you know what? It's his fucking fault. You want to know why we lost? This son of a bitch is sitting at home with his girlfriend. He's not focused before the game. He's about to cost you a fucking championship. Everybody get out of here. You sit here by your fucking self and you figure out how to win that game or you're walking home. That was it.
And you won?
We won by 1 point at the buzzer.
Oh my God.
They fouled me on an alley-oop going up, 2 free throws.
And you were probably like, fuck it, thank you for fouling me. As a basketball mom, I remember those fucking tournaments, and it's like, when, we're either playing at 4:30 and 7:30, or we're just playing at 4, and if we win at 4, then we're going to play at 8, and if we don't, and it was just like, you didn't know when you were checking out of the fucking hotel, when you were leaving, how late you were staying,
Yeah.
This week's episode of It's Judy Show with Judy Gold is sponsored by BetterHelp. And if you know me, which I think you do because you're listening to my podcast right now, you know that I am a big advocate for therapy. I think it benefits everyone. I think there's so many people who need it, who don't partake. It is so important for your emotional health and well-being. Therapy is fantastic. It is in every stretch of the imagination. And if you're thinking of starting therapy, please do it. But please give BetterHelp a try. It is entirely online. It's designed to be convenient. It's flexible. It suits your schedule. You fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. I have switched therapists in my life. I've had many, many therapists, and sometimes it's not a great fit for you, but don't give up. Therapy is beneficial. You can learn about yourself, you can process, and just be emotionally healthy. I'm telling you, do it. BetterHelp is great because, when I used to schlep to my therapist's office, it was so annoying. You have to do it, and you sit there and you wait, and then I'm telling you, doing it online is fantastic. And BetterHelp is amazing. I know a lot of people who've used it. So if you're thinking about therapy, go to BetterHelp.com. Let the gratitude flow. This is Gratitude Month, people. So you need to let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/JudyGold, JudyGold, today, and you will get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/JudyGold. You're welcome.
So you were playing basketball, and you were on the AAU, right?
Yeah.
A lot of kids, I don't know if people realize this, end up leaving their public schools and going to prep schools to get them ready for college Division I, which is what my son did, and a lot of people do. But you stayed at Denver East, right?
Yeah, a lot of people a lot of people had tried to get me to move back to New York.
Right.
Yeah, including my dad.
Yeah,
like, hey,
I heard that. Yeah,
path to the NBA.
He said he asked you to come, and you said, I'm not leaving my mother.
Yeah.
So these coaches they're all coming to see. I mean, it's usually in the AAU games is when they're all coming to fucking see you in the summertime. So
I played in an AAU tournament. My coach sent me to. So coach sends me down to play in this AAU tournament, right? And I remember I talked to him on the phone. He said, how's it going? And I said, oh, good, man. I think I told him I had like 16, 9 assists and 9 rebounds. And I'll never forget this. He said, I don't give a fuck about your rebounds, your assists, your defense. He said, you score score.
Right.
And he said, that's all they're looking for out there. They'll sort through the rest of it after they get you. You show them that you can score the basketball, right? And, these games, you playing like 4 games a day, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That was game number 3, I think, that day. And it's in a big arena. So there's like 4 basketball
courts. Yeah. There's games going on.
Yes.
All time, and people with pads.
Yes.
These fucking guys with their fucking.
Yes.
And then they're watching the game, and then they go. They look up you up, and that because as a mother, you're sitting there going. After your kid makes a basket, you're like looking to see who's looking up his name and on the fucking roster. Yeah.
Well, the coaches are spread all around these 4 courts. And I walked back in there with what coach had told me in my head. Show them you can score. And when I tell you, I am killing these poor kids. And 4 courts, right? You see all the coaches slide.
Come over to your court.
Now, by the end of my game, all the coaches are right on our court. And I remember the other coach coming over and stopping and looking at me and saying, hey, man, we threw everything we had at you. And I was like, yeah, well, my coach told me to show him I could, but he was spot on.
Right.
The hell with all that other nonsense. Just give them the business. And that's what I did. And after that, my mailbox filled up with letters and I was on my way to D1.
So I find this, as a performer and then having a son who plays basketball, like, it's a stage. The basketball court is a fucking stage. You got an audience and you have to bring it home. Like you have to, and a lot of things are out of your control. How did you learn how to focus? How did you learn how to shut all the noise off and just, when Ben tells me the shit they say to each other on the court.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was at a game yesterday. I was at the Giants game and my buddy Mark Theobald's cousin was in the back. He played football and he literally asked me, he said, hey, man, football coaches will say anything to you. He said, John, you play basketball at the highest college level. Was it like that for basketball? And I said, oh, God, yeah. I remember my college coach one time, check this out. We got in trouble. It's a true story. I'm playing at Minnesota, right, for the Gophers, and we go to the Timberwolves games. Because at that level, when you play at that level, every team has alumni that are in the NBA.
Right.
Everyone. You're playing, every team's got a number of people that are in it. So one of our buddies who had graduated before we got there, playing for the Timberwolves, he said, yo, I'll leave y'all some tickets, come down, hang out. Of course. The Timberwolves were terrible, right? We go to the game. The game is so out of touch that me and my friend Townsend are asleep at the end of the game.
Oh my God.
They show us on the 10 o'clock.
No way.
In Minneapolis saying that the Timberwolves were so bad that the Gophers fell asleep at the game.
Oh my God.
We're back at the dorm chilling, phone rings. Hey man, it's one of the assistants. Coach just saw you guys on the news. We were like, oh yeah, man. Okay, sorry about that. So right. He said, no, he wants to see you over at the gym.
Oh fuck.
Yes, we get over to the gym. The equipment manager is there. He hands us bags. You guys should get dressed. Keep in mind, it's like 11:45 at night.
Okay.
Yo, he sits a chair down in the middle of Williams Arena with a newspaper and sends us running.
Sprinting.
We're up in the balcony just running and running and running.
Oh my God.
I hope you some bitches die. I hope you fall and die. I'll tell your mother, I'm sorry she ever had your sorry ass. And my boys in the back like, oh, basketball coach? I was like, you should tell us, I hope you die. You're the worst.
Oh my God.
Your mothers are too sweet for your sorry asses. And luckily, one of my boys threw up and that saved us, because he's sitting there reading the paper. Okay, take your ass back. And if you're not going to go to the game, you can't stay awake for the goddamn game. John, you threw the ball away 5 times in practice in the first 10 minutes. You could learn nothing at an NBA game. Oh, he let us have it. Yeah. And you know what's so crazy? I never went back to a goddamn Timberwolves game after that.
That's so funny. You know, I even in high school, Ben had this one coach when he was in high school in New York. We used to laugh. The things he said to these kids were so mean. And then after the game, love you guys. I love you guys so much. And it was like, you want to play this sport?
Yeah.
Because I have some jacks in the other room. Maybe you can play that. You know, like, and it was just like, I was just wondering, how stupid are you? And I'm like, is he allowed to do this? And I'm like, Ben, don't you get upset? And he's like, no, he doesn't mean it. And it's just like calling them retards and stuff like, are you retarded? And it's like, you're not even allowed to say that word anymore.
Well, I don't know what these coaches can get away with now, but they could say anything. I remember it was so bad. There was a coach that they said grabbed one of his players by the balls.
Oh God. Yeah.
This coach was infamous, Bobby Knight.
Oh, I know Bobby Knight. You think I don't fucking know Bobby Knight throwing the chairs? We used to watch him, and I was like, what the fuck is wrong with it? I mean, that was a show in itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Bobby Knight grabs this guy's nuts, and I remember that was news. And I still remember at the time thinking to myself, when that was news, Coach had just punched the guy on our team. Not only did he punch him, he punched him while he was backpedaling.
Oh my God.
He was so mad. He punched Kev because we had got embarrassed on TV, on ABC. And Coach was fuming. He said, if you some bitches think you going back to the dorm to chase some women, you out of your motherfucking mind.
Right.
So we get back off of this plane into the arena, get them dressed.
Oh boy.
Yes. And I remember Kev was backpedaling. He's still mad from this game. Punched him in the chest. And I remember them saying that Bobby Knight had grabbed. I was like, Coach, just punch somebody. Like this.
Right.
That's nothing. He literally punched this dude in the chest.
You know, Bobby Knight, because my son Henry went to IU, and he's like, people just had posters of him still up, you know, like a legend. And he was so abusive. He was so abusive, Larry Bird left there. Yeah. People forget that Larry Bird had signed with him. And then he went to Indiana State because he couldn't take it. Yeah. Larry Bird was a tough motherfucker. And fucking great basketball player. Yeah. So you go to Minnesota and your high school coach says to you that you should stay with whatever college you pick. Yes. You know, just wait it out. You picked, and where did you get offers from, and why did you pick Minnesota? Coach, you know, the coach at Minnesota, Coach Haskins, he's, you know, these guys, if they sell your mom, that's where you're going. Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. They sit there. I really see what you, and you're like, and all you want to do is he going to play? Is he going to play? Is he going to play? Is he going to sit on the bench? Is he going to play or is he going to sit on the bench? Yeah. You know? And the other thing too was, to be honest with you, I didn't know anything about college basketball. Right. So I used to get so many letters that the post office in Denver was like, these letters we're never going to catch up giving you these letters. So what we'll do is we'll fill the box up every day. And then on Sunday, we'll bring you what's left in this big plastic thing. We'll just dump it all in there. So on Sundays, it would be on the porch. So we would bring that in. Right. Brother would sort through it. This is the no pile. This is the consider pile. Right. Here's why I think you should go pile, and here's why. So between my brother and my mom, they kind of, you know, that's how I ended up in Minnesota. So you go to Minnesota and you leave after the first year. Why? And go to Colorado State. Now, why did you leave after the first year? To your point, you want to play, right? Right. So, I mean, and you're versed enough because you've been through this now, Judy. Yeah. You know that the head assistant, when a basketball game is going on, is the guy giving out the minutes and the guy who did the first round of recruiting. So he's the guy who brings you to the attention of the head coach.
So the head assistant has way more influence on who's playing and who's coming into a college than people think.
Right.
So if you're cool with the head assistant, you're going to play, period. If you think of a basketball team as a pride, as a lion pride, anybody who's watched 2 documentaries on lions know that if a new lion comes into that pride, he's killing the cubs.
Right.
He wants his cubs
Right.
to be his offspring. So the last thing you want as a college athlete is for the assistant that brought you in to leave.
And he left.
Stands up, starts crying, and says, looks right at me, because the other guys have been there for years now.
Right, right.
You don't want to be in that first year and have the guy who's going to be vouching for you,
right,
no matter what. He's come to your high school games, several of them. The head coach doesn't have time for that.
Right,
so
right.
The guy knows what you can do, even if it doesn't seem like it right now. Coach Brown stands up, starts crying, says he's leaving. So, of course, we in the hallway crying like, God damn it, I am in trouble now. So I get on the phone. Keep in mind at the time, there's also that second year when the new coach got there, had brought in, because I was there a year and a half. So it was the second year that I'm there after Coach Brown had left the first year. Second year I'm there. New coach comes in and he's bringing in
his people.
High school American from Detroit.
Right.
He's from Detroit. He's bringing in a guy from Detroit that he wants to play. So I call Colorado State. Coach Jackson's at Colorado State. My guy, John, you know when the head assistant leaves, you know that's hell on earth. You know I'm the head assistant here. That won't happen to you here. Come on back to Colorado State. So that's how I ended up back at Colorado State. And then I get to Colorado State.
And the coach hates you.
The head coach hates me.
What?
He and when I tell you, we couldn't have been more opposite human beings. You know, this is some Mormon guy from Utah who literally tucks his shirt into his underwear.
Oh God.
I'm not even.
And don't they have fake underwear too? So they have like double underwear. Yeah.
Dude, he tucks his shirt into his tighty whities. Me and this guy couldn't have been. We despise one another, but me and the head assistant are 10 toes in a sock. So I just get there. You got to sit for a year, right? You transfer. And
what's that called? Red shirting?
Red shirting, yeah.
Yeah.
So I come in, I'm red shirt. You got to sit for a year.
Woo! Yeah.
So at the end of the year, we have a banquet every year where the boosters come, the team gets together, and the head assistant who had brought me to Colorado State, Coach Jackson, stands up, starts crying.
Oh God, with the crying again. Yeah.
And says, I took another job at Stanford. And he's looking right at me. So my teammates start crying because they were like, this has never happened to anyone.
Right, right. And it's happened twice to you in a fucking year.
Because keep in mind, most assistants are with this head coach their whole career.
Right.
Every once in a while, you have a really great team like Duke or somebody where the head assistants keep going to get head coach. But most of these basketball coaches are with their head coach their whole career. If nothing, even if they're not there their whole career, by the time you make it to head assistant, you're there for at least 15, 20 years.
Right.
Because these guys coach 30, 40 years apiece. Some of them even more. But twice in 2 years. Like, even my teammates started bawling like, what just happened to this guy? And
you're probably thinking, like, how the fuck does this happen to me twice?
Well, I knew I was done. You're not gonna, I think of it like this, Judy, and you can relate to this as well as anybody. You are a comedy legend.
Oh,
of epic purport. No, really, it is what it is. But imagine if you're working in a club, Judy, with it would almost be like trying to survive 5 club bookers.
Right. Or you're on a show and then they fire the executive producer and they bring a new executive producer and head writer in, and it's like, bye. Like, yes, happens to all the fucking, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God. Yeah.
Brought in a new showrunner.
Right.
You're not going to survive that. And then imagine if it happened to you twice. in 2 years.
Oh my God! Now, did you ever call Jack Lohman and say say what the fuck should I do?
He and I had already bumped heads at that point in time because we didn't really speak for we barely spoke for almost 2 years because from the time I was, going into the time where you're going to have to sign something and go somewhere, in that junior year is when everybody signs before they get to their senior.
Right.
So he was begging me. He was like, "You got to go to Pepperdine."
Oh,
Pepperdine, because
right.
his best friend was the head coach at Pepperdine.
Right.
So he was like, if you're not playing, I can get on the phone. I can call this guy.
Right.
Yeah. And I didn't. And I, I was young. Mom likes this guy. My brother said this thing. And I'll be honest, I went to Pepperdine and I felt so uncomfortable because these are the richest kids I've ever seen.
Yeah.
There's Porsches, Rolls Royces. That's not where I'm from. I just felt so uncomfortable.
Right.
But I think that hurt him. And then you're calling him from a place that he has no control.
Right.
Thinking, this is why I told you to go to Pepperdine.
Mm-hmm. It's true because the high school coaches, your cheerleader, they have their own connections, and they know that they can, fight for you or tell you what's going on or have some inside scoop for you.
Yes.
And once you say no, and they're like, well, fuck it. I don't know this person.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to part 1 of Kill Me Now with the incredible Jon Laster. Kill Me Now is produced by Laura Vogel, edited by Colin Schmaling. This podcast would not be possible without the help of Brittany Jo Sowards. If you have not subscribed to the show, really? I mean, I've talked to friends of mine who are like, oh yeah, I need to subscribe. Just fucking subscribe, please. And please leave a review. 5 stars only. 5 stars only. I'm still fuming about my Uber rating. And I'm literally, people, it's like, hi, how are you? And when I leave the Uber, I'm like, okay, be safe, take care. And I tip really well. I can't. Okay, so Uber, I want my rating. They shouldn't even be able to rate you. Okay, anyway, that's my big pet peeve today. Tomorrow night, I will be performing an hour at the Fat Black Pussycat. That's right, the Fat Black Pussycat. It's part of the Comedy Cellar, and I'm going to be trying out new material because I'm going to do another album. That's right, girls and gentlemen, and they, thems. FYI, if you are in the New York area, March 10th, I'll be at City Winery. On March 12th, I'll be at the Raz Room in New Hope, Pennsylvania, which I love. And March 26th, I'll be at the Savour Theater in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Check out my website, judygold.com, for any upcoming giggies and daties. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok, motherfuckers. Kids made me go on TikTok, so I'm at Judy Gold, JEWDYGOLD, at Judy Gold, JEW, because I'm a Jew, as I've mentioned. If you're still listening, by the way, I love you. I fucking love you. I don't know who you are, but I love you. I want to say Sarah Palin is an asshole for being in New York City with COVID, with a positive COVID test, and then just going out gallivanting and eating out. She is a fucking asshole. So not a fan, and get out of my city. You know what I'm saying, baby? I hope everyone is boosted. I hope we can stop wearing masks at some point because I can't fucking take it anymore. But I'm going to still wear it. I double mask on the subway. Not a fan of the subway lately. Not really feeling safe on the subway. We got a lot of work to do in this country, but hopefully we'll do it and things will get better. So that's all I have to say right now. I want to thank you all so much for listening. Please tell your friends about the podcast because honestly, I make no money from this. The only way I can pay for all the expenses of the podcast is if you subscribe and then I do an ad, and then the more people who listen, I get a few more cents, and I can pay for the editing. There's a lot that goes in. There's producing and editing and social media. So, yeah, don't think this is all just sitting around talking, people. All right, that's all I have to say to you. I love you all. Take it easy. And as we always say, so long.